The house was old, but not broken. It stood at the end of a narrow street where evenings came quietly and mornings arrived slowly. Its paint had faded, and the wooden stairs inside made soft sounds with every step. Most people would say it was just an ordinary house, but to Lena, it felt like a place where memories stayed longer than people did. Every night, when the world grew silent, she heard something that made her heart pause, the gentle sound of steps on the stairs. Lena had moved into the house after her grandmother passed away. The place still smelled like old books, tea leaves, and the soft perfume her grandmother used to wear. Nothing inside had changed. The clock still ticked on the wall, the curtains still moved with the wind, but the house felt emptier, like it was holding its breath. Lena told herself the sounds she heard at night were only the wood adjusting to the cold air. Still, each time the steps came, slow, careful, one after another, she felt as if someone was walking through yesterday. She did not feel fear, that was the strange part. The sound of those steps did not carry danger. They carried familiarity, like a memory trying to return home. Lena would sit up in bed, listening carefully, her heart beating softly, waiting for the sound to stop at her door. But it never did. The steps always paused halfway up the staircase, then faded into silence. One evening, Lena found an old photo album while cleaning the living room. Inside were pictures of birthdays, small family dinners, and quiet afternoons. In many photos, the staircase appeared in the background, and in almost every picture, her grandmother stood on those steps, smiling gently. Lena traced her fingers over the photographs, realizing how often life happens in the spaces we forget to notice. That night, when the steps returned, Lena did something different. Instead of hiding under her blanket, she stood up. Her feet touched the cold floor, and she walked slowly toward the bedroom door. The house felt still, almost as if it were waiting with her. She opened the door and looked at the staircase. Moonlight fell across the wooden steps, painting them silver and soft. The sound came again, one step, then another. Lena's breath slowed instead of racing. She placed her hand on the railing, the same railing her grandmother used to hold. It felt warm, even in the night air. She understood something then. The steps were not coming from outside the house. They were coming from inside her memories. Tears gathered in her eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. They were the kind that come when love is too big to hold quietly. She closed her eyes and let herself remember. Her grandmother calling her name, the sound of slippers on the stairs, the smell of warm bread in the kitchen. The house was not haunted, it was remembering, just like she was. From that night on, the steps still came, but Lena no longer waited in fear or confusion. When she heard them, she smiled softly. She would whisper, "I'm here," not because someone needed to hear it, but because she did. The sounds slowly became part of the night, like wind or distant rain, gentle reminders that love does not leave when people do. As months passed, Lena began to change. She opened the windows more often. She let sunlight fill the rooms. She cooked recipes her grandmother once made and laughed when she burned the bread slightly. The house felt lighter, as if it approved. The steps on the stairs became softer, less frequent, like a memory slowly finding peace. One quiet evening, as Lena sat near the staircase, she realized she had not heard the steps in many days. The silence did not feel empty anymore. It felt complete. She placed her hand on the railing and whispered a quiet thank you for the memories, for the love, for the gentle reminder that no moment is truly lost. The house still stands at the end of the narrow street. The stairs still make sounds when someone walks on them. But now, when Lena hears a step in the quiet night, she does not wonder who it is. She knows it is only time, moving gently forward, carrying yesterday with it, one soft step at a time. After that night, Lena began noticing small details she had ignored before. The house was no longer just a place she lived in. It felt like a quiet companion. In the mornings, sunlight touched the staircase first, resting there as if the steps were the heart of the home. She would pause while passing by, placing her hand gently on the railing, not out of habit, but out of connection. It felt like greeting someone without words. One afternoon, while dusting the shelves, Lena found her grandmother's old walking stick resting behind a cabinet. She held it carefully, feeling the smooth wood shaped by years of use. She remembered how slowly her grandmother used to climb those stairs, one careful step at a time. Back then, Lena had always been in a hurry, running past, never realizing that those slow steps were moments she would one day wish to hear again. That evening, the air was still. No wind, no rain, only silence. Lena sat on the couch with a warm cup of tea, listening to the quiet house. When the steps came, they sounded lighter than before, almost distant. She closed her eyes, and instead of following the sound, she allowed it to pass through her like a memory drifting across the mind. She understood now that memories do not need to be chased. They visit when the heart is calm enough to receive them. Days turned into weeks, and Lena began writing in a small notebook. She wrote about the sounds of the house, the way light moved across the walls, the feeling of sitting alone but not lonely. She wrote about her grandmother's laughter and the lessons hidden inside simple moments. Writing became her way of keeping time, not counting seconds, but collecting feelings. One rainy afternoon, a neighbor knocked on her door. He had recently moved into the area and wanted to introduce himself. As they talked, he mentioned that he had heard the house was very old. Lena smiled and said, "Yes, but it's full of gentle memories." She almost told him about the steps on the stairs, but she stopped. Some things, she realized, are meant to be felt, not explained. That night, the sound did not come at all. Lena waited, but there was only the quiet hum of the house. Instead of feeling loss, she felt a soft understanding. The steps had never been about sound. They were about learning to slow down, to listen, to notice what remains when everything else moves on. Before sleeping, Lena stood at the bottom of the staircase and looked up. The darkness above did not feel empty anymore. It felt peaceful, like a finished story resting in silence. She whispered goodnight, not expecting an answer, but feeling one in her heart. From then on, the staircase became a symbol for her, a reminder that every step we take carries the weight of the past and the hope of tomorrow. Life would continue, people would come and go, but the quiet love woven into ordinary places would always remain, waiting to be heard in the silence.